Well, I just rewatched Dune. I have finally got around to watching Dune 2, and I just started watching Dune Prophecy. I know I'm a little bit late to the party. Dune 2 came out a while ago, but I finally got around to watching it. I saw the original Dune in the theater, and I was blown away by it. It was an amazing movie. The visuals were astounding. It was surprisingly well acted. It was a lived in universe. It told an interesting story. I was captivated by the original Dune movie. Finally watched the second one. I decided to rewatch the first one so it was fresh in my mind. So I watched both of these back to back. And oh my goodness, do they work as one single gigantic movie. If you just watch it all in a row, beautiful, well acted, gorgeously shot. The special effects do not get in the way of the story. People are riding gigantic sandworms and you forget that you're looking at CGI. Visually speaking, these movies are absolutely masterpieces. Then I started watching Dune Prophecy.
Not a great plan.
Dune Prophecy also looks very good, but there's something missing. So let's rewind a little bit and talk about Dune and why that works. Personally, I've actually never been a big fan of the book Dune. I know it's extremely popular. I know it sold gazillions of copies. Frank Herbert wrote 6 Dune novels, and then his son Brian Herbert paired up with Kevin J. Anderson and wrote about 18 million more books. I haven't read any of them except the original Dune, and I was never able to finish it. I didn't like the book. Now, I know that's sort of blasphemous. A lot of people love the Dune book. I just couldn't get through it. I found it boring. I found it tedious. I found it very difficult to read. I got lost in the fake words, the fictional pronouns. I had to read chapters and reread them to just get. It just wasn't for me. And I love science fiction. I love fantasy. I've read big, epic science fiction and fantasy novels. I've written a science fiction novel, Death Siren, but for some reason, Dune just never clicked with me. But I really wanted to get into that universe because it's so expansive. It spans tens of thousands of years with lots of characters with epic stories. So I really wanted to get into it, but I just couldn't get past the first book. So that never happened. Now that I've watched the movies, Dune 1 and 2, and as I understand it, they're pretty faithful. So I'm actually thinking about going back to the Dune books, picking up with Dune Messiah and seeing if I can get through that thing. But setting that aside, let's talk about the movies. What works is the visuals, no question. The score, amazing, no question. What didn't quite work for me in the second Dune movie, as I didn't really buy Paul Atreides' motivation for going with the Fremen other than revenge for the Harkonnen family destroying the Atreides family. I get the need for wanting to take power for that reason, but I didn't find the Fremen terribly sympathetic. The first time he meets up with the Fremen, they force him to fight to the death with somebody. Really, that's not a great way to ingratiate yourself with a new person. To join, you have to kill one of us. That just didn't quite make sense to me. It didn't really gel. But even so, the Fremen seemed to be a very interesting culture. It seemed to be a good launching point for Paul, strategically, to launch his rebellion against the Empire.
You know of the rebellion against the Empire?
I was a little thrown by Christopher Walken being the emperor of the galaxy. I didn't see that coming. All I see when I look at him is Christopher Walken. I don't know, maybe they should have cast a more unknown actor for that. Sort of threw me out of there, but I won't say anything bad about Christopher Walken. He's a fantastic actor with a fantastic career, and I love that legitimate, real actors are doing big sci-fi stuff. And I love that they're adapting old science fiction novels. They did the TV show Foundation on Apple, which didn't really do that great as far as adapting the Isaac Asimov book. Wasn't really a faithful adaptation. As I understand it, Dune is a much more faithful adaptation. I want them to go and dig up all these old science fiction books and make adaptations out of them. The Moon is a Harsh Mistress. That would be a great movie or TV show. Hyperion, there's a whole bunch of great things out there that could be adapted. Please, Hollywood, do that. Dune Part 2 worked very well to present the story of Paul Atreides rising to power. Now, I understand in Dune Messiah that doesn't really go very well. The Fremen sort of lead a holy war, and it really goes badly. And Paul Atreides really maybe shouldn't have taken power. It would have been better for the galaxy, as I understand it. I haven't read the book, but that's what I've been told. Love the movies. Little nitpicks about the story structure. Maybe it was stretched out a little bit too long, but overall, one of the best science fiction epics ever put on film. Dune Prophecy is trying too hard to be Game of Thrones in space. They both start with a tragedy occurring with a young child. They both have that palace intrigue stuff going on. It tries really hard to be Game of Thrones. HBO wants that cash cow back, and they thought maybe Dune would do it. It's a really popular, thick book that they could adapt, but it's just not quite to the quality of the movies. And after seeing Dune 1 and 2 and how amazing they are, this TV show is just such a step down that it's really disappointing. If this TV show had existed in a vacuum, I might like it better, because when you compare it to the movies, it just doesn't live up to it. They throw in the gratuitous sex, and I'm not a prude, but it just went on. The gratuitous sex scenes went on too long, and it was a distraction from the story where I found myself rolling my eyes at it more than anything else. Also, it's very odd that it's about 10,000 years in the past, and I know the whole Dune saga spans like 30,000 years or whatnot, but to have everybody speaking the same language, have the same last names, they still have Harkonnens, 10,000 years ago, people have the same name. I don't know. I understand the technology can stagnate a little, but it looked too much exactly the same for being that far in the past. I understand that's the way it is in the books, though. One thing I do appreciate is that this is an adaptation of one of the spin-off novels, or I don't know if that's the right word, but a prequel novel written after the original novelist died, Frank Herbert, and Kevin J. Anderson and Brian Herbert are doing these books. I saw some people online making comments that these are nothing more than fan fiction. I like that it legitimizes other authors carrying on stories. I like adaptations. I like reading Star Trek books. I like reading Star Wars books. I like reading in-universe stuff. And I like that a continuation is being legitimized by making a real big budget TV show. And I appreciate that Kevin J. Anderson's name is in the credits. I think that's fantastic. The show is just not living up to the movie. It's kind of boring, actually. It reminds me a lot of Star Wars Acolyte, where you have this group of women that are magical and seeking power. Just doesn't quite gel together correctly. It is interesting to see the origins of what the Bene Gesserit are, and I really dig the voice thing where they command people, stab yourself in the throat. That's pretty cool. But it just doesn't quite live up to the original two Dune movies. And I like the trend of having a television show fill in the gaps between movies. The Penguin TV show on HBO was fantastic. If you like the Batman and you want to watch more in that universe, the Penguin gives that to you, whets your appetite for the next movie. I like that idea. I like the idea of a Dune TV show to kind of whet your appetite until you get the next Dune movie. I wish Dune Prophecy was better. Maybe it'll get better as the show goes on. Maybe I'll come back on and do a review of that after it's completed. I am stoked for Dune Messiah. I hope it's good. I'm going to try to read the books. I'll let you know how that goes. Thanks for stopping by the Reaction Lounge. Until next time.